Paramount 440 blades got in a holder. This is aluminum on the holder, and then this is the actual runner, which is 440C stainless. I'm going to take the square over here and just check this set before I work on it. I'll put it over here and touch this edge and this edge and go over and see that got a gap under there, so that's not square. If I flip it over here, try it on this side. It's much easier to see. So it's exaggerated, it's like this. So the edge here on the right is low. This edge is high. And you don't have that much to measure with. There you can see it. So the edge on the left is high. It's like that. If I flip it over and want to again look at the other side, I'll see the gap is at the top. That's really hard to see, but yeah, that's not adjusted right. That's a preliminary on this skate blade. Okay, what I was just measuring right now is looking at the end of the blade. This is this 440C stainless. This is the aluminum extrusion. This part here is that clamps. And then the only thing I've got here to really measure is either going back here and looking at this part, but that's only on just right here on the skate for clamps, and over here and just a little bit of that, so that isn't a very good reference. So you can just sight on this very little edge here. Boy, that's difficult to do. So got the square across here, and I'm looking to see if I've got a gap like under here. So it's either going to be like this or like this when the square's on there. That's with the little square here. Now a normal skate like that, you've got like these, that's paramounts. A set of legacies here, this whole thing here is parallel. So you have a huge reference surface. So those are actually a little bit more easier to sharpen in the sense that you've got a good reference surface. You got a really long, if you want to measure with respect to this edge, you get this really long edge to measure across here if you use a square on here like this. Got it on there wrong. Got a large area here to measure with. Paramounts, a lot harder to do in the sense that your reference is just this little vertical surface. Unless you have a fixture somehow grabs the whole kit and caboodle, and then you measure across both of these with a real long some type of gizmo that's really long like this. And that's to detect, you know, an error of say 1/2 degree or something like that. Okay, with gold seals, they're side honed. So you've got a thinner cross section through here. And on a skate holder, to grab that, you need to use the only area you can grab here is it's flat through here. It's parallel. So you have to have the skate up like this. If you got it in like this, it's going to be kind of rockered over. So in any type of skate holder, you've got to have it to where you're on the parallel sections through here. That blade through here is parallel. And then it gets necked down and gets wider again. So through this section right here, it's constant thickness from here to about here. And through this area, it actually gets narrower and then gets back wider again. And that's why it has this goofy reflection through here. It looks kind of cool. And then you've got where the edges are ground, on the side the chrome relief, and then you have the edge. And it hasn't, of course, that hasn't been sharpened there. And that's what that is. This is all not to scale. I just kind of drew it to exaggerate it. So the clamping from here to here is this area we clamp to. You put it on a holder. Of course, it's like that. Somebody's got it in like this, it's going to go ahead and tend to grab where the sloping area is, and the blade actually could be cocked down, because some of the holders have on different types of sharpeners, they use a flat, then they have kind of like a point source here on a clamp. There's some other different types of makes, and what it's going to do is it's going to be touching through here, and if it has like just a rounded contact that pushes down for tooling, it's going to be bent over and you're going to be all screwed up. So with Gold Seal, side hones, the other brand, you've got to make sure you clamp it in this zone on there. And then when you do a cut, as I mentioned in another video, you've got kind of the dilemma. It's hard to figure out what your reference is, because if you put the square on there, I kind of alluded to in another video, when you go through here and check, you've got to try to get the sides equal. But the square, if you use a square, it's kind of a goofball situation in the sense you're touching here. Let's say it's perfect. If you come down here, it's going to look like this. This is 90 degrees. Because this dimension here is a little bit narrow than up here, I believe. Same thing when you turn the square over on the other side. So what you're looking for is to make sure that this view on the side looks the same as the other. So putting a blade in here, if you have side honed, any sharpener, it's easy to sharpen in the sense that you got it in here. If you clamp it correctly, you cut it. The question is, how do you verify that you've got the edge heights? This height on one side is the same height as another, and not screwed up like this where the bite angles are goofed up. Left could be high and right, and it's going to be a screwy situation. And I mentioned another video, if you put a magnet across there, is one way to do it with a big long straight edge, and check with respect to your tooling. Magnetic gizmo. This isn't very long, so that's hard to detect an angle. If you could go through here, check it like this. This is a bendable piece, which isn't good, but you really need a long moment arm to check. And then if you use a square gizmo, you're basically going to be sighting in with respect to these edges. What you can do is just kind of, honestly, it's a pain in the butt to do, because you just don't have a very good reference. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you get side honed blades like this, you can tell by the reflection, you just can't, you can't say have somebody just stick it on a sharpener and sharpen it and say, oh yeah, they're correct, because you can't just sit there and instantly stick a square on the side. It's a pain in the butt to do. Now if you put this on here and you manually, sight it along, you're going to get a gross error, but not anything precision like that. And I think for hockey skates it isn't seem to be as critical as with figures. on there. And then having some type of longer gizmo to detect the error on there, where you've got to detect whether you've got a half a degree or two off would be good. Or you allude to the square. And with the square, you're basically going through and looking at the way the gap looks on one side versus the other. And that's, it can be done. It's a pain in the butt in the sense that you got to sit there and compare what the looks are, the gap from one side to the other. And so that's a lot more involved. Whereas if you just have a set of, let's say, regular skates, you got hockey skates. These are just figure skates, and the blade is, these are Ultima Legacies. These are flat. Real easy to check with the square. You just put it on there, boom, you see one side versus the other. You can see the gap whether it's like this, because this is all parallel through here. You got to define surface. So this is a higher end blade, gold seal, but I'm not sure if most sharpeners really love to sharpen these things because it's just hard to check because of the nature of the side blades are got that curve to it. So it's a more difficult blade to sharpen because of the checking. The ability to check this is really, I'll you be positive, it's challenging, frustrating. You got to put it on here and sense the gap. And I'm not really getting a good picture, but the gist is you're putting on both edges and you're comparing the gap from one side to another. But because it's not a nice defined edge through here, where this is parallel, it's really easy. You stick this on here like this. If it's off, you see the gap here. This way you see it off, it's going to be like this. Here you're going to see a gap in all cases because this, I believe, is narrower than that. And maybe I should go back here real quick and show you what it is. There's just a cheap dial caliper. Let's see if we can re-zero it. I'm going to go measure right here by the rear of the boot. It's about 137. If I go down here where the other part is, it's about 156. It's 156 to 137 over that. And if I could get in here and somehow squeeze between the two, it's even thinner. Well, let me just show you this like this. If I grab a hold of that, there's where the clamp is. So you got all this loose air in there. That's an old blade. That's because this, when you grab onto here, it's actually grabbing like this. Got air here and air here with the caliper. And it's grabbing here to where it's like this. Got the chrome relief, the edge, the chrome relief, back down to here. And then this is parallel. That's the parallel section, which is onto here. This is the parallel. That's this. I'll call that A. That's A. And this is what you call a cross section in engineering. Because I'm an engineer. If you cut this through here, you look at the end, that's what this view is on the paper. Just like I went through and cut this off with a bandsaw. And then this point is here. It actually is going down narrow and up. It's probably even a little more like this. Exaggerate. It curves in. It's thinner here than it is here, or even there up at the top. So it curves in, and then you have these features here, which is the chrome relief, and then you've got the part that you're skating on. It's actually ground. So when you got the up dot in, this is where the square is, or whatever you're sighting with, if you're trying to use something on the blade. That's why it's tough. And again, over here, if you take just a regular, where's one of the boots? This is that's a legacy right there. All this is straight through here, since that's all parallel from one side to another. And that's like this. Got a huge reference surface. And then here's the edges. So you can get in there, measure with the square real easy. Got this giant, there's no guessing. Where this takes judgment in the sense you're going to put this on top and take how it looks on this side versus this side. Now you could say you're going to measure to this. Okay, that's cool. But you're only going to be able to do that right here, and maybe over here. So you only have really 3 places you could do that. If you want to sight it along the whole blade, you basically have this weird curved section. So it's a high-end blade, but it's like this is a Ferrari in the sense that you're not going to be able to, you know, quickly go ahead and have somebody grind these and then say, oh, it's a perfectly square. Because the only way you really can do it is put the gizmo like this on and eyeball it. Because if you don't have a square like this, and even the square is difficult because you don't have, you got this rounded surface here. It's nothing to measure. So it's very frustrating, these things, in the sense that you've got a square here, but you don't have any reference surface except eyeballing what it looks like on one side versus the other. So if you're in a rink that's got a place that just has a regular sharpener, and then, you know, even though they have a square, one with flat sides has got the advantage that it's easy to check, very easy to check with the square. Way easier to check. And then these are difficult to check because you've got almost no engagement here. From here to here looks like about 3/16 of an inch. There's not much. So I'm not sure at the factory on these things if they go through and they have these in a big fixture and grab right through here, and through there. I imagine that's about the only way you can do it. That's the only reference for surface I see is through here and through here and here. Like I'm going to grab this and then have a device to measure edge height that goes on here like this, but you've got a longer arm so you can detect whether it's off. And again, I'm pretty sure in figure skates is more critical than on hockey, at least that I've seen. I may be wrong on that, but I've sensed that it's a lot more, blades are more expensive, and then it seems like it's a little bit more critical on that. Those are Phantoms. No, yeah, those are Paramounts. I may have screwed that up, but yeah, these are Paramounts. The Paramounts are harder to check because of this height here isn't very much. If you go take a base skate, let's get some old, these are all marked, these are single star, MK single star, and some kids skates. And these are just got a starter skate. This is all completely straight through here. So you can check it real well with the square. Putting on there. Tend to put that on wrong. To the side. Most skates have got parallel sides like this. The newer ones, to get the weight down, they've gone through and added aluminum core through here to get the weight down. And then you've got just the runner through here. Aluminum weighs 0.1 cubic inches per pounds per cubic inch versus steel's 0.28, say. So it's about a third the weight. So you get less mass. That's the paramount.